There is a place that is spoken about only in whispers, a dark area that spawns the beginnings of urban legends, a place where anything can happen and usually does. During the light of day, it hides just outside of view, but when the sun goes down, spirits, creatures of the night, roam free, and things do go bump in the night. It is in every state and every country, and there is no escaping it, no matter how safe you feel behind your locked doors and latched windows. So we invite you to turn down the lights and turn up your radio while we join Dave Schrader and Tim Dennis, your hosts, on a journey into the darkness on the edge of town.
Hello and welcome. You're tuned into the best in paranormal talk radio. This is Darkness Radio. I'm your host, Dave Schrader. Along with me, the beautiful and effervescent Tim Dennis. Hello, Tim.
Well, howdy.
How are you, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm well. I want to start off today, first of all, just acknowledging a friend of ours has joined the program again, Bombas Socks, our sponsor, who was with us for quite a while over at Podcast One, is now over with us here in our new home, our better digs, and we are happy to be a part of the Bombas family because Tim and I legitimately love Bombas socks. We wear Bombas socks. We use them all the time. You were just telling me you ordered the new gripper slippers yesterday.
I did. I'm excited. Winter's coming, and I've got a lot of hardwood floors here at the house, so it's going to be a cold winter, of course, this winter. So I'm looking forward to the new gripper slippers, and boy, Dave, do they look nice and warm and toasty, and of course, with the foot issues that I have, I'm looking forward to the gripper slippers. And I got to tell you too, I recently saw my foot doctor, and my he's more than just a foot doctor. He's an orthopedic podiatrist. And you want to talk about a ringing endorsement of Bombas. Every time I show up and he sees these socks, he absolutely loves Bombas as well. So you want to talk about a ringing endorsement. My doctor absolutely loves them as well.
Hey, check out Bombas, BOMBAS.com/darkness. You'll get 20% off your very first order. Now let's get to the order of business, Tim. We've got a couple of things I want to talk about to start off today's show. First of all, the Darchives. We made this jump. We promised people we were going to be offering up the old shows. Now, just so everybody out there understands, all the old shows need to be edited one by one, to have the old station call letters, to have music removed. I know you'd like the music. We can't afford the $100,000 a year BMI or ASCAP license, so the music has to be removed. We have to remove any commercials, anything that was a part of it. So it's a very long, tedious, arduous task. Tim is working his butt off for you. So you've got, I think, every episode available from the last 3 or 4 years. And then he's going back to our very first season, cleaning that up and making them available. Then he'll clean up the second season and make it available, and third season, and so on. Now understand, it's as complete as we could make it. Thanks to a lot of listeners who sent in episodes, listeners that helped out. We appreciate that. We've completed, and we've got, God, how many hours did you say that we uncovered of our Darchives?
Well, actually, Dave, there's quite a bit. And I want to kind of correct you a little bit here because I've been working my little fingers to the bone. And if you go backwards into your, whether you're using the Stitcher app or whatever you're using to listen to Darkness Radio right now, actually, if you go backwards in the list, and this is the way it's going to appear, you have almost the entire first season of Darkness Radio right now. In fact, by the time you listen to this, you may have the entire first season of Darkness Radio right now. I've posted everything through October of 2006. So I've been working my little fingers to the bone lately and spending a lot of late nights in front of my computer in the studio. So it's
weird to listen to those, man. I go back and I've been listening to a couple of those old episodes, and you hear how very nightly news I'm trying to be on those episodes because everybody was hyper vigilant about taking the paranormal seriously. And I wanted to do that task. And so I've got that very kind of slowly as the seasons progress, you'll hear Dave and Tim start to evolve into who we really are. But at the beginning, again, I'd been out of radio for 20 years.
Yeah, it had been a long time.
Yeah. It was crazy.
I'm just going to continue to roll these out. There's not going to be any huge announcement of season 1 is out now, season 2 is out now. I'm just going to keep working and releasing and releasing and releasing. I know it sounds very dirty what I just said there, but these are just going to keep popping up. And so, there's not going to be any big announcement. The episodes are going to keep coming up as they come up. So, there's no need to flood my inbox. There's no need to blast me on Twitter. There's no need to blast me on social media. In fact, I've blasted you back if you have blasted me on social media and said, just check your timeline or just check your app because they're there. They're going to be there and they're going to continue to build. So that's how it's going to work.
Yeah, so we're making the episodes available. Thank you, Tim, for all of your hard work. I know there's a lot that goes into shaping these episodes and making them presentable again. But you get to go back far, 60 or almost 15 years ago when we started on January 1st, 2006. So as many of the episodes as we were able to recover are made available, and Tim is going to keep working for you. So that's great news. I wanted to give people the heads up on that. I know that the Stitcher website and app, they've been updating and changing a few things. So everything will be caught up. Everything will be better soon. So you'll start finding us a little bit easier. They're aware of some of the bugs in their system, but we do exist there. You'll find us. And we want to thank everybody that's come along for the ride. And thank you to many of the great listeners who have been telling me how they're sharing our shows with new listeners. So that's cool. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge our amazing audience, Tim. Mm-hmm. We talked last week about a listener, Daryl, who is going through a rough time.
Right, yeah.
Feeling very isolated, alone, and I just put out a call if there's anybody who was interested in being a pen pal, and I got about 25, 30 emails of people that have time and would like to also kind of talk and be a friend to Daryl.
Oh, good.
And some of them are in the same boat he is. So I like that we're putting that together. So, folks, if you have issues, you're alone, you're isolated, you maybe just feel like you don't have people to talk to, you wish you had a bigger, broader friend base to work from, you can email me, dave@darknessradio.com. And if there are those of you out there who have time to email back and forth and make new friends, email me and just put in the reference line, need a friend or want to be a friend, something like that, so that I can keep you guys all together, and we'll just keep adding each other and make this great community of people that can talk and find friendship and beat back this loneliness with new people. I'm really impressed by how many people have reached out and wanting to help. So thank you so much for that. Because we've been, we record a lot of our episodes in advance. We don't always get a chance to acknowledge things that have happened. And we missed a big story that came out a few weeks back, Tim.
Yeah. The amazing Randy had passed away. And actually right now, if you go to the Darkives on Stitcher, the episode with the amazing Randy and Lou Gentili, if you remember, there's the $1 Million Paranormal Challenge that right. The amazing Randy had put out there as part of JREF, the James Randi Education Foundation. That episode is now up and in the Darkive, so you can take a listen to it. And I didn't mean to jump the gun on you on this, but so you can get a little bit of background on James Randi. So with that, go ahead.
No, that's great. And that's what I was going to mention. So you can go back, listen to our original interview. I think we interviewed Randy 2 or 3 times over the years.
We did, yeah. And those episodes, and I'm trying to remember if the second episode with Randy is up too. If not, it will be up within the next week or two, I believe.
No, I wanted to address it because I'm sure a lot of you are like, but James Randi hated the paranormal and the supernatural, and why would you guys even interview him? Because we do try to be fair and balanced as much as we can, and we have had skeptics on the show. And this is what I'm going to say about James Randi, Tim. I think the gentleman doth protest too much. I don't know that he even believed all of his hype. And I know I'll take some heat from his followers and everything for saying that, but I've met James Randi twice and had a chance to talk with him. Mm-hmm. when I met him at Dragon Con, he gave me a hug. We took a picture together, and he said, I enjoy your show, and I enjoy what you're doing. For a guy who was a staunch skeptic, and I'm not throwing him under the bus by saying this, he's passed now. I feel like this is an okay thing to acknowledge, but I think Randy was very much the modern day Houdini. He started a career with sleight of hand and illusionist and then escape artist, and then kind of followed the same pathway that Houdini did, being a debunker and a decrier of the supernatural. But with that said, he named his documentary An Honest Liar, which is, I believe, on Netflix or Amazon Prime. And you can watch it. It's a fascinating story, but you learn a lot about him. And I don't know that he necessarily was a staunch skeptic as people think. I think it was part of his shtick, to be honest with you. I think it was part of his deal. Now, he wanted people to be critical thinkers. I believe that.
Right.
And I believe that he didn't believe in every aspect of the supernatural and the paranormal. But I believe that he also saw a niche for himself, and he really did become the modern day Houdini in the sense that he carried that on. There was really nobody else. Penn and Teller are staunch skeptics and will decry the supernatural, and that's great. But I really feel like Randy was that kind of liaison. He was at that mid ground between Houdini and today. But he was always a gentleman when we dealt with him. He came on and we had that was really kind of a coup. At the time when we did our interview, Lou Gentili, who has since passed, was an EVP specialist. I'd been with Lou on a few investigations and heard the EVP he collected, and it was nuts. Some, like all EVP, I wasn't impressed with. Some blew me away. And he claimed that he could get EVP anywhere he went. James Randi and him supposedly were having this battle. Gentili had a clock ticking on his website, I believe it was, how long it had been since he had made the offer to take the James Randi challenge, and claimed that James Randi refused. So we reached out to James Randi and Lou Gentili, and both agreed to come on the show. Right. And address the situation. And James Randi, I thought, was very clear and concise. And he told us, you watch, this guy's going to, now that I've officially come out and I've said we'll accept his challenge, he'll find 100 reasons. And I'm like, no, he won't, Randy. This guy is the real deal. He's going to take you on. And Lou Gentili backpedaled really fast. And it was kind of heartbreaking to see, because I thought we had a champion and Lou maybe taking this to the next level. But he backpedaled and like all of the claims he made against Randy, for always coming up with 100 reasons why this wouldn't work in a scientific setting or so forth, so on and so forth. All of a sudden, he started backpedaling and coming up with 100 reasons why he couldn't do it or shouldn't do it. And then, unfortunately, I believe he fell at work. I don't recall the way he passed away, but I believe he fell at work and was severely injured, and it eventually took his life, if I recall correctly.
He did have an injury in there, but I thought there was also a heart attack in there as well.
Could be. It's been a long time since we lost Lou Gentili. And by talking about this, I'm in no way disgracing Lou. I was with him. I saw the EVP. I heard the EVP. It was phenomenal. I don't know why he backpedaled, and he never would address it when I put out the invitation to come back on and talk to us about it. So,
well, and in all fairness, if I can throw this in there for just a minute, the hoops you have to jump through, and a lot of our friends have said this about the $1 Million Paranormal Challenge, the hoops you have to jump through, and Randy put quite a few in there in order to scientifically prove that you have this paranormal gift, were quite a few. I mean, not just quite a few. There were many in there, and a lot of our friends have told us it's almost impossible to do, because every time you think you've met or grab those brass rings, so to speak, to get to that $1 million, there's one more that's thrown in at the end. So therefore, Randy made it impossible to get there. Now, I'm trying to remember the name of the successor of James Randi, who took over for Randy at JREF. What's the gentleman's name? We've had him on too.
It's oh, good God! My name is blank. It's got the names.
But we've had him on as well, and even he stated that's not the case. That is not done. That there is a set amount of expectations or a set amount of rules set amount of experiments that are done. And it's just a matter of getting through the experiments. The only thing that is, stopping these people from coming forward and getting through the experiments are the limitations of their own doing or their own mind. The fact that they know they can't get through these experiments, that they can't reproduce this in a lab. I can see where knowing that the paranormal can't be reproduced on command, you would go, well, I don't want to set myself up for failure. I don't want to walk into a laboratory and put myself up, against $1 million challenge when I know that I'm walking into a place where there probably aren't spirits, or there may not be spirits. And I'm, my gift, quote unquote, is to produce EVP. Now, I know in a haunted setting, I can get EVP. In a lab that may not have any spirits, I don't know that I can do that. And so in Lou Gentili's defense, maybe he knew he couldn't do it, and therefore he wasn't going to subject himself to ridicule and failure.
It very well could be. I don't know. He would never come back on to really explain it. It just seemed like he was spinning a lot of rhetoric back that, this wasn't a reason and that wasn't a reason, and so on and so forth. So I don't know. It's kind of it's strange. But like I said, we had Randy on. I've met with him twice, talked with him twice in person. I think we had him on the show 3 times. Mm-hmm. I always found him to be engaging, entertaining, and always very polite.
Yes.
To us. So he is one of the quote unquote skeptics I enjoyed speaking with.
Can I point
Ben
something out?
Radford was the other one that I've always enjoyed talking with, and Dr. Michael Shermer.
Yes,
Joe Nickel, not so much, but the rest are pretty decent to deal with.
You pointed out kind of the passing of the baton between James Randi and Penn Jillette. And there's a huge difference, I think. Randi was a true skeptic, maybe bordering on cynicism. I think Penn Jillette's a true cynic. He isn't... but witnessed behind the scenes, and a lot of people, we've mentioned it throughout the years, but I don't think we've ever really come out. You have reached out at times to Penn Jillette with a staunch no. He won't come on the show and won't talk paranormal at all. He doesn't believe anything of it and won't talk of it. Won't even bring up the subject for just a friendly banter. Whereas James Randi was a man who, would talk about the possibilities. He absolutely would talk about the possibilities. But it was one of those things where he wanted you to please sit down and prove it to me that it exists. Let's talk about the possibilities. But it was never anything that, his whole thing was don't hit me with woo-woo, as he called it, and expect me to believe it. Don't think that I'm just going to buy into what you're selling. Prove it to me. Prove it to me and scientifically prove it to me, reproduce it for me over and over again, and do it in a way that I can't debunk it, and I'll believe it. And that's what he wanted.
Well, and like I said, I think he was a fan of critical thinking, and he just wanted people to be critical thinkers and to put more thought into it other than just, I died or grandma died and, this must be her ghost, which I give him a lot of credit for. He really was trying to make something, more believable and bring people forward. Check out the documentary An Honest Liar. It was made back in 2014, but it's a really interesting overview of James Randi's life and his waning years. He came out as a gay man, I think, late in his, was it like 70s, early 80s?
Yeah.
That he came out as homosexual, and the documentary examines that as well. So it's an interesting story, but it's well worth examining, and you get kind of a different vibe of James Randi than I think you might have going in any other way.
You know what I think would be interesting? I thought about this right after I heard he had passed. I think it would be interesting if he, and I just, in my own what if scenario, what if Randi passed and at that moment found out there was really life after death? it was one of those ironic what if scenarios, like not necessarily like he saw a bright light and he walked to it and was on the other side, but what if James Randi all of a sudden became a spirit trapped here on Earth because he didn't believe in an afterlife?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we'll just have to, obviously there's going to be some investigators who are going to try to claim that they've made contact with
sure.
since death.
Yeah.
That bonehead Steve Huff probably being one of them.
Right.
But that guy just keeps communicating with the dead right after they die and has been debunked time and time again. But his followers are many.
Yeah.
And legion, which I don't understand. But we'll never know that answer till it's our time to cross over. And I guess that's part of why everybody's so interested in talking about the afterlife. Beyond the voicemail, or beyond, good God, voices from beyond voicemail. Why can I not say the damn name of our line right? Voices from beyond voicemail is 651-300-4977. You can call that number, share your story. But Dave, I have called that number. I've left my story, and you guys never aired it. Well, in a few instances, kids, you've told the story and you might not have heard the beep because you're allowed 3 minutes. So maybe set a little timer for yourself. If you're rambling 8 minutes in, we haven't heard the last 5 minutes of it. And unfortunately, that's what we've had some stories that are burning along. They're 3 minutes in and they get cut off and they don't call back in, or they were unaware they got cut off and they just continued talking. So we might not have your whole story. You have 3 minutes. Keep a little timer. As soon as you start leaving your voicemail, you have 3 minutes. If you see you're running out of time, then when you get to the end of it, just stop talking, dial right back in, pick up and say, this is Dave. My story continues. Give it a pause and then start with the rest of your story. Tim will connect those and put them together in editing software, and we'll present the full stories. But I just want to put that out there. I'll see if we can dig up a couple of the names of people that have done that and have not had their stories presented. We don't want you to feel like we're slighting you or not using your story. And so that's why I mentioned that.
I got to throw a couple other ones in here too, Dave. 2, don't call in and do this. Oh, yeah, by the way, I'm halfway through my story, and you know what? It's a little much. Why don't you guys just call me back and have me on live? No. Just finish your story.
Just finish your story. That's all we're asking. And, it's a bit much. That's fine. You can call 8 times and leave 8 3-minute messages. Tim will put them all together.
I did that last episode. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had somebody who left 8 separate messages and I put them all together, and you heard it last episode. So it's been done and it can be done. So no, there's no, well, call me back and have me on live. That's not going to happen. Just leave your
Especially
story.
Because we pre-record the show and we do it when the two of us have time to get together. And sometimes we don't know it until an hour beforehand. So to arrange a time to connect with you, it doesn't work. So that's our issue. Just leave a voicemail, 651-300-4977, or you can always email your stories to me. Now, we are collecting the stories that are longer, that are being written in a narrative form. We're going to go back to doing some Theater of the Mind episodes in the future, so that you can hear some Theater of the Minds. For those of you that are new to the show, might not know what a Theater of the Mind is, Tim, let's go ahead and play an old one for them right now.
This week's Theater of the Mind revisits history. I Remember the Day, a true life encounter, from Jared Benson. Dallas was abuzz with excitement. The president, our president, was in Texas for a visit. There was huge fanfare, excitement, and a parade-like atmosphere. To say our family were Kennedy supporters was a bit of an understatement. We were fervent servants. My Aunt Evelyn was among the biggest of all. Aunt Evie, as we called her, prattled on and on about JFK like he were her own son. I think she may have rivaled even Joe and Rose in the pride department when it came to Jack, as she called him. It was November of 1963. On this day, our family was knocked out of commission with what I think could only be akin to a version of the Black Plague. We were all down and out, sick, fevery, achy. It was horrible. Other than that, it was just another day in Dallas. We had congregated in a small breakfast nook in our home to partake in my mother's soup, trying to find resiliency
in the ultimate of comfort food. The grandfather clock in the hall rang out with a powerful single bong to mark the time. It was 12:30. A few minutes later, the phone rang. Mom stood up, shuffled across the kitchen floor, and grabbed the receiver of our lime green home phone hanging on the wall.
Benson Residence,
she chirped. Immediately, her expression changed.
I'm sorry, who is this? Who? Evie? What are you saying?
With that statement, we all turned to look at Mom. I don't think anyone breathed the entire time she held the phone.
Who was shot? Who's dead? When? Oh my Lord, what? How is this possible? How is this possible?
She cried out in astonishment and tormented pain. My father stepped up and approached my mother. "For God's sakes, Margaret, who is that? What's going on?" he barked out. With that, Mom turned to him. Her eyes rolled straight back up in her head, and the phone slipped from her hand, striking the floor. Just moments before she did, she fell to the ground in a heap. We all leaped up and ran to her. My father was already cradling her, stroking her face, trying to rouse her back to consciousness. I reached for the phone to see what was going on and who was there, and I was met with an annoying, shrill sound, the screeching that phones made in that day when they were left off the hook. I stood up and replaced the phone on the silver hook and turned my attention to my parents. My mom was coming to at this point and shaking quite badly.
Bob, it was Evie. She said Kennedy had been shot. He's dead. It was Evie, Bob. It was Evie.
Dad tried to calm her. "That can't be right, Marge. She's in a coma. The stroke. The stroke, honey. She had a stroke," he said, almost trying to convince himself. I snapped on the TV and we waited with anticipation as the TV crackled to life. I checked the stations, but there was no mention of Kennedy, a shooting, or anything of its kind. "It was some jackass kid pulling a prank," Dad assured Mom.
No, Bob. It was Evie,
she sobbed. Dad called the hospital and checked on Aunt Evie. She was there, still very much in a coma and unresponsive. Dad was reminded of our appointment with the doctors the following day to make a very hard decision. The rest of our day was uneventful and Mom eventually calmed down. The following morning, as a family, we went to say goodbye to Aunt Evie. The stroke was extensive, and she was completely unresponsive and living only with the aid of machines. It was November 22nd in Dallas. We sat in the room, taking turn holding Aunt Evie's hands, saying our goodbyes and sharing fond memories and our fair share of tears. When suddenly, the hospital sprang to life. There were cries from down the hall. Doctors and nurses filled the rooms. All eyes were on the TV. It was about 12:40 p.m., and news was being reported that JFK had been shot and was in transit to the hospital. We exchanged baffled looks. Our mouths hung open in pure confusion. It was exactly 24 hours since we received that call from Aunt Evie. My comatose aunt, the one that didn't have a phone in her room, that called to tell us Kennedy had been shot and was dead. One day before it happened. Like the rest of the world, we sat transfixed to the TV, KRLD in Dallas, watching the story unfold before our very eyes. We were aghast as the sound of police sirens screamed outside the hospital. They were bringing the president here, to Parkland Memorial, where Aunt Evie lay in a comatose state.
This is Walter Cronkite in our newsroom, and there has been an attempt, as perhaps you know now, on the life of President Kennedy. He was wounded in an automobile driving from Dallas Airport into downtown Dallas, along with Governor Connolly of Texas. They've been taken to Parkland Hospital there, where their condition is as yet unknown. We have not been told their condition. At Dallas, in the downtown hotel room, a group had been gathered to hear President Kennedy when he was waiting his arrival. Let's switch down there now, where Eddie Barker of KRLD is on the air.
As
As you can imagine, there are many stories that are coming in now as to the actual condition of the president. One is that he is dead. This cannot be confirmed. Another is that Governor Connolly is in the operating room. This we have not confirmed. The president was whisked from the scene of the attempted assassination or assassination, depending upon his condition, of course, at this hour, by bus to Parkland Hospital, and the president undoubtedly is in the emergency room at that hospital, which would be on the first floor of Parkland. No word is yet. We are awaiting something more official. It is, of course, difficult, certainly, to go on scanty reports.
Within 30 minutes of arriving, Aunt Evie let out a gurgling sob, and a single tear rolled down her cheek. Then she slipped away. Our attention turned back to the television set and newscaster Walter Cronkite.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
That day in Dallas, Texas, we lost a true American, someone that stood for all the things that are good and right in the world. Love, family, and commitment to our country. Oh yeah, we lost our president too. I will never forget where I was that day, or the day before Kennedy was killed.
There you go. That's a story supplied by one of you. So what you do is you email me the story. Email it as a nice narrative with paragraphs, breaks, so that it's not one giant continuous paragraph for me to try to read through and get the inflections right and everything. So if you can write it as a narrative, and that means good descriptors, things that Tim can work with, or sounds. And I know normally you wouldn't think of that, but if you're walking, if this was happening by a stream, mention, as I walk past the stream, I could hear the sound of the water breaking against the rocks. There was it was an overcast night with light thunder in the background. Just things like that it really does help the narrative and good sound effects for the show and those theater of the minds. Write it out. We usually ask for between 1 to 3 pages of a really solid story, and we'll record them, and we'll start making those available again in January. And we've missed doing the theater of the mind as much as you, probably not as much for Tim because he's got a lot of extra work involved, but we enjoy bringing those aspects back. A lot of you just stopped writing deep narratives. You gave us very short, succinct little 1-paragraph stories or 2 paragraphs, and that's it. So if you've got a good story to share, and then I've had people ask me, so do you want real stories or can I write stories of fiction? No, we want the real stuff. We want your real stories and examples of dealing with the supernatural, whether they're funny stories, scary stories, weird stories, bizarre stories, whatever. We want to hear your tale. So we've had tales of time slips and ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot, Dogman encounters, all kinds of cool stuff in the past, and we'd love to hear more of your stories. So email me in. Otherwise, if you just email me a quick story or two, we'll read them online like we do and share them with the audience. So keep that in mind as well. You can email me, dave@darknessradio.com. Let's go ahead and take a call right now.
Hi, Dave and Tim. I heard your podcast about the Hinsdale House, and I just wanted to share a story that I had when I was there visiting the Hinsdale House. So I went with my friend, and we were exploring the Hinsdale House, and they take you through the house, and they give you some of the history as you're kind of going through and looking at things and experiencing things for yourself, and then they take you up into the woods that's behind the home where there was some Native American history. So as we walked up into the woods behind the house, my friend and I were standing there, and they were telling us a little bit about the Native American history that was there, and all of a sudden I started to feel almost like I was drunk. It was like somebody had put those goggles on that they give you like in high school where they make you, see the blurred vision and you kind of feel sick to your stomach, and I immediately had that feeling, and it was overwhelming. So much so that I actually had to hold on to one of the nearby trees so that I didn't fall down. So as I'm kind of holding on to this tree, it was almost like a veil had been put around the woods, and all of the people that were there with me were no longer there. I could no longer see them. I could hear them talking, but I could no longer see them. And then there was this little boy that was coming in and out of the trees, like poking out behind the trees, almost as if he was playing like hide and go seek with us. And I could hear him, and he was telling me, "Come find me, come find me." And so, obviously it was a little bit of a jarring experience because I knew it wasn't like live in that moment, so to speak. And it kind of scared me a little bit. So I just, asked to not see this anymore because it was making me, like I said, I did feel a little bit nauseous. So I asked that I not see that anymore. The veil was lifted. The people that I was with came back. And my friend was looking at me, and she said, "Did you hear that too?" And I said, "What did you hear?" And she said, come find me," which is exactly what I heard. And we shared that story about seeing the little boy. I have one other story from the Hinsdale house. So we went upstairs into one of the bedrooms, and we were sitting, and we were being guided by one of the guys that was there. And they were using a spirit box. And while my friend and I were sitting on the bed, the lights were off. They were talking through the spirit box and trying to get the spirits to communicate with us. And all of a sudden, right in my ear, I heard, "She's mine," in the like super demonic voice. And it was really scary. And I kind of grabbed my friend's hand, and she looked at me and she said, "Something just grabbed my legs." And within probably 15 to 30 seconds later on the spirit box, we hear the same thing, "She's mine." No one else heard the voice the first time. It was only through the spirit box that everybody else heard it. But both of those things happened.
All right. It's that simple. 651-300-4977. Call and share your stories. Tomorrow, we are joined by the one and only Amy Bruni of Ghost Hunters International, Ghost Hunters Academy, and now, of course, Kindred Spirits over on the Travel Channel. She'll be our special guest as we talk about her new book and her life with the afterlife. That's tomorrow on the Best in Paranormal Talk Radio. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more right here on Darkness Radio. We're back. This is Darkness Radio, your home for the best in paranormal talk radio. Every week, you can find our show right here. Tim, there's one other thing I have to address. I've gotten a couple of emails. People are like, I'm really bummed. You asked us at the beginning, would we prefer you stay on the weekends or move to the middle of the week? And I wrote you, we'd like you to stay on the weekends, and you didn't. Well, there was about 12 emails that came in that said, we'd like you to stay on weekends. There was about 2,200 emails that said, middle of the week is great. I'll listen to you at work, on the way into work, on the way home from work, whatever. So we went with majority rules on that. Here's the nice thing. Because of the way the show's posted, you can still listen to them on the weekends.
Yeah.
It's not a live radio show where if you missed it, you're screwed. This show's up and available anytime.
Right.
So for those of you that, but I like to listen on Saturdays and Sundays, if this makes you feel better, Tim and I give you permission to listen to us any day of the week you want to listen to us.
Yeah, don't listen to it right away. I mean, just because it comes up on the list, on Wednesdays and Thursdays doesn't mean you have to hit play. I mean,
Oh, yeah. But please do rate and review our show, especially for those of you on iTunes. Help lift us back up into the prominence so people know that we're out there and we exist, and we're always looking to build the audience. One of the ways we get that help is by you rating and reviewing. It costs you nothing to say something nice and give us 5 stars if you enjoy the show. So please go ahead and do that. If you don't enjoy the show, don't listen and don't write horrible things. That's all I'm going to ask.
That's good advice.
That's all I ask. That's all I ask. It is what it is. Let's get to it, Tim. There is some really bizarre things in the news this week. And I had many people that are siding with me on the zombie apocalypse of how the world is going to end.
By many, do you mean 3?
No, it was 5 people that sent me this story this week. And they said, this one, Dave, this could be the beginning because it's been unleashed from Russian permafrost. Are you ready for this, Tim?
All right.
Ancient roundworms allegedly resurrected from Russian permafrost. This is pretty weird and wild. And if, something to take into consideration with the melting of the polar caps and the changing of weather patterns. It does make me wonder how many new old viruses, things that we thought were long dead, are going to be re-released into the atmosphere. Because listen to this, the permafrost of Russian Siberian heartland has yielded an array of impressive finds in recent years. Last September, as a matter of fact, a local resident wandering along the banks of a river in the Republic of Yakutia discovered the roughly 50,000-year-old remains of an extinct lion cub, almost perfectly preserved by the permafrost and permanently frozen ground. In 2015, Russian scientists chanced upon the similarly well-preserved remains of two ancient lion cubs, dubbed Ewan and Dina. Now, the Siberian Times reports that Yakutia's frigid ground has produced yet another revolutionary discovery. Two nematodes, or roundworms, preserved in the Arctic permafrost 40,000 years ago, have come back to life after being defrosted by researchers. Now, if this is true, the claim, newly cataloged in the journal Doklady Biological Sciences, would make the roundworms Earth's oldest living animals, shattering the record for the longest time an animal can survive in cryogenic preservation. According to news atlas Michael Irving, a team of Russian scientists working in collaboration with Princeton University found the viable specimens while analyzing more than 300 soil samples taken from the Arctic permafrost. One of the samples was retrieved from a squirrel burrow located in the Duvany Yar outcrop and dates to 32,000 years ago. The older sample, which dates to about 41,700 years ago, was found in a glacial deposit near the Alasia River. Both nematodes are believed to be female. Irving writes that the worms were initially stored in a lab kept at -4 degrees Fahrenheit. Later, the samples were slowly defrosted in a petri dish alongside an enrichment culture designed to encourage their growth. After spending several weeks basking in their new 68-degree Fahrenheit environment, the nematodes, against all odds, began moving and eating, Tim. Eating. Sound like a zombie to you? Dead, coming back to life, eating? Our data demonstrates the ability of multicellular organisms to survive long-term, tens of thousands of years, under the conditions of natural conservation. The scientists said in a statement, it is obvious that the ability suggests that the Pleistocene nematodes have some adaptive mechanisms that may be of scientific and practical importance for the related field of science. So that means they're going to mess with these things, Tim. They're going to think that they're going to inject us with longevity, and what it is it's the beginning of the zombie virus that we'll all be infused with.
I hate to piss on your foot
and
tell you it's raining, Dave, but I have a story right here in front of me.
And first of all, no, you don't.
You
love peeing on my cereal.
Science, Dave. Would you like
Science.
to hear what scientists say about your little theory there?
Okay, amazing, Timmy. Let's hear it.
This from National Public Radio. Are there zombie viruses like the 1918 flu thawing in the permafrost? Let me just skip ahead to one mummy that was excavated. I'm going right to the mummy, right to the source, Dave. A dead body. I'm skipping all the way ahead to when they excavated a mummy here from an Arctic source, okay? I'll go right to this here. It's a little frozen girl from, is it Ukitavik? I think it is. It's up in the permafrost there. It says here that the little girl was carefully wrapped in a duckskin parka and with a fur-trimmed collar. Her parents had buried her with a little sled inside their meat cellar. Her body was so well preserved that Jensen shipped her to Anchorage so doctors could do a full autopsy. One of those doctors was Michael Zimmerman, a paleopathologist at the University of Pennsylvania who had been studying mummified bodies for 30 years. When you open up frozen bodies from Alaska, all the organs are right in place and easily identified, Zimmerman said. It's not like Egyptian mummies where everything is shrunk and dried up. Doctors can easily see why a person died. For the frozen little girl, it was starvation. But Zimmerman has seen infections in bodies excavated from permafrost. In one case, a mummy from the Aleutian Islands seemed to have died from pneumonia. When Zimmerman looked for bacteria inside the body, there they were, frozen in time. So there's the bacteria. Are you ready for this? We could see them under the microscope inside the lungs, Zimmerman says. But were these zombie bacteria he was looking at? Could these come back to life and infect other people? Yes. Zimmerman tried to revive the bacteria. He took a smidge of tissue from the lungs, warmed it up, and fed it. So he's trying to actively bring these zombie bacteria back, Dave, but nothing grew, Zimmerman said. Not a single cell. So there you go.
I've seen enough horror movies to know that then he throws it in the garbage can thinking there's no problem, and then it begins mutating and growing, and then the poor janitor comes in and scrapes his hand on a windowsill, and he's like, and then he picks up the bag, and the bacteria's crawled into him, slowly turning into a zombie virus.
To stomp on your foot after I pissed on it, Zimmerman says he wasn't surprised the bacteria were dead. Pneumonia bacteria have evolved to live in people at body temperature, not cold soil. We're dealing with organisms that have been frozen for hundreds of years, he says, so I don't think they would come back to life. But what about viruses, Dave? Like smallpox or the 1918 flu? He says, I think it's extremely unlikely. So there you go.
Think and unlikely. So there's still a chance.
No, there's not, Dave. It's all fiction, just fiction.
Here's, first of all, tomorrow, Tim, brand new episode of the Holzer Files on Travel Channel. I do want to mention that. And something that we're adding right now for listeners of our program. Mm-hmm. We're doing a live video stream called Holzer's Ghosts every episode after the Holzer Files, live on my Facebook and YouTube page, where I'll be interviewing one special guest that will be associated with that episode. Tomorrow, Kobe Treadway, who is a worker at the famous haunted Surratt Tavern, is going to join us. We'll talk about the real history behind this place, some of the strange paranormal activity he came across, what we found, and what has happened since. Plus, we'll be taking your questions. So that's a live video stream on our YouTube channel and on my Facebook pages, Twitter and such. So that'll be out and available. And then on Fridays, the audio will be made available as a bonus episode of Darkness Radio. And guess how much we're going to charge for that bonus episode, Tim?
$18.95 a download.
Nope, not at all, Tim. First of all, that's not even. That seems way too cheap, but we're doing it for free.
What?
We're doing it for free.
For
an extra
free?
Bonus episode. Yeah, for every episode of the Holzer Files that airs, we're going to mention that. I also want to mention tomorrow is a mini marathon starting early in the morning, I think at like 8 Central, and it's 4 or 5 episodes from season 1 of the Holzer Files. And then tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern and Pacific, a brand new episode, Death to Tyrants, as our team goes and checks out the haunted Surratt Tavern. So that's going on tomorrow on the show. And then Friday, you'll get the audio of our live after party with Kobe and maybe some other special guests. So tune in, check that out. But if you want to be a part of it and get your questions in and have some fun, watch the show live, then go over to my Facebook page or our YouTube channel and watch along there. Okay, this story, Tim. Now, yesterday on True Crime Tuesday, we read a true crime story that kind of had some, supernatural, I can't even say the word, slant to it. Today, we're going to read a true crime story here that's just weird, but it fits right in with every horror movie concept and haunting you could imagine. Okay. Are you ready for this?
Ready.
Oh, boy, this is a weird story. Here we go.
Okay.
This is the headline. Monster who robbed graves of 29 girls and then lived with their corpses refuses to apologize. A monster who robbed the graves of 29 girls and then lived with their mummified corpses has refused to apologize to their traumatized parents. Twisted Anatoly Moskovin, 53, turned the dead children into dolls, dressing them in stockings, clothing, and knee-high boots. He even applied lipstick and makeup to their faces and marked each of their birthdays. Weird. His parents, who lived in the same flat, in a Russian city, Nizhny Novgorod, claimed to know nothing of his macabre activities. The grave robber has refused to apologize to his victim's parents as he attended a custody hearing amid his efforts to be released from psychiatric hospital to care for his elderly mother and live with his new girlfriend. That's right, Tim. Some woman out there read that he was stealing 29 bodies of young girls, taking them home, dressing them as dolls, keeping them around, celebrating their birthdays with them, treating them like they were alive, and was put into a mental care facility. And some woman thought, I got to have me some of that guy.
Takes all kinds, I guess.
Here's the thing, I guess, in that case, women and men are always complaining. I wish that the person I'm interested in just wore a sign, crazy or not crazy, so I knew what I was getting into up front. This woman knows what she's getting straight up front. There's no hiding this.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's a big blinking neon sign right there, right on the old chest that says, admittable. Is that a word?
It depends where the rest of the sentence goes.
Yeah. Still she's with him. She loves him. She's never going to let him go. She's Rick Astley in that guy.
These girls are just girls, he said. There are no parents in my view. I don't know any of them. Besides, they buried their daughters, and this is where I believe their rights over them finished. So no, I will not apologize. Moskvin also said he wanted to become a teacher of English to children after an initiative by Vladimir Putin to boost foreign language in schools. In Soviet times, he worked as a translator for military intelligence in the Red Army and later wrote several history books. One medical commission has already recommended releasing Moskvin, asserting his schizophrenia has been treated, but this was overturned by a court. Yeah. A judge last week renewed his detention in a psychiatric hospital for another 6 months. Sorry, I won't speak about it, said Moskvin after the decision. Moskvin was detained in 2011, confessing to 44 counts of abusing graves of girls aged 3 to 12. Previously, he has told the parents of his victims, "You abandoned your girls in the cold. I brought them home and warmed them back up." The corpse of murder victim Olga Charyatmova, age 10, was one of the 29 he dug up and turned into mummified dolls, some with music boxes wedged in their chests. Her mother, Natalia Karamova, 46, did not realize that on her regular visits to her daughter's graveside, the coffin was empty. She has opposed his release and said, "This creature brought fear, terror, and panic into my life with his grotesque abuse of the dead children." She called for him to be permanently locked up. "I would be happy to know he will spend his life in hospital," she said. "He's a very sick person. From one side, it's not good to be happy about this at all. But I will give me the chance to put a gravestone on the plot of my daughter. She was buried unnamed to prevent him finding her a grave again if he is ever released." His mother, Elvira, 77, said, "We saw these dolls but did not suspect that there were dead bodies inside. We thought it was a hobby to make such big dolls and did not see anything wrong with it." She claimed the court was biased against her son, who was not able to be in society, work, or get married. Yeah, I think the best thing for him is a home, just a state-run, funded home, because if his parents don't really see a problem with it and still they're feeling like protecting him, it won't be long until Norman Bates is out there digging up graves again.
Yeah.
What a weird-ass story, dude. Just a weird story.
That goes beyond PTSD. That's a whole.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like the article said, he's deep into schizophrenia. He definitely needs help.
Yeah. Oof. That's crazy. Crazy. Here's an article that is also kind of a Parashare in a sense. This came out, about a week ago. "I spent the night in the Conjuring house, and yes, it's haunted. I'm glad it was just one night." That's what Amanda Milkovitis says she says, I felt almost giddy. My sister and I had made it through a restless night in a haunted house. And in the morning, the old farmhouse actually felt peaceful. As I walked downstairs from the bedrooms, I felt proud to have stuck it out where others have fled. I'm in the living room. I tapped the ghost detector device that had been bugging us all night with its periodic beeping and made it light up. How about some coffee, ghosties? I asked cavalierly. The detector lit up and strongly and began wailing loudly as someone strode from the front room and came up behind me. Look, the detector likes you. It started going off when you walked in, I said to my sister, Suzanne. She didn't answer, so I turned around. Suzanne was not there. No one was there. The front room was empty. Suzanne called down from the bedroom, "Who are you talking to?" Winding country roads through a darkening autumn forest delivered Suzanne and me to the house on a, dark and stormy night. The old clapboard colonial on Round Top Road inspired The Conjuring, the 2013 blockbuster film about the haunting of the Perron family nearly 50 years ago. The film was loosely based on the papers of paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, who conducted a seance here in October of 1973 in an attempt to rid the house of spirits said to be tormenting the family. They say the entities never left. With Halloween upon us, my sister and I decided to spend the night with the ghosts. This is no bed and breakfasts. Guests come here to explore the paranormal, or at least try to last the night, but not everyone does. Every guest must sign a waiver acknowledging that the environment is designed to maximize the fright and anxiety experienced by patrons. Along with loose rugs, uneven floors, and dimly lit stairs, guests could risk violent spiritual attacks, spiritual attachments, frightening statements, and unpredictable and surprising situations. Scarier than 2020, I wondered? With a deadly pandemic, civil unrest, political chaos, and a general sense of impending doom, the thought of things that go bump in the night seemed kind of quaint, though maybe not for those who live there. Corey and Jennifer Heinzen, paranormal investigators from Maine, bought the house in the summer of 2019 with the intention of opening it up for tours. Earlier this year, they began offering overnight stays at $125 a person. For people to explore the 3,100 square foot house, its barn, and 8.5 acre property, they also provided paranormal equipment so guests can actually conduct their own investigations. The house is booked until January, but the Heinzens are hosting a live stream. They did this October 29th through Halloween, and a seance on October 30th, which with our friends Nick Groff, I believe it was, and the Perrons. As I drove, my sister read aloud from House of Darkness, House of Light, the memoir by Andrea Perron, the oldest daughter of the family who lived there in the 70s. She has since referred to the place as a portal, cleverly disguised as a farmhouse. Her story begins, "The telling of this true story is not intended to persuade the reader of its authenticity. Those who believe in the existence of the spirit world will not receive or require convincing. Those who do not believe so will likely remain skeptical." That could also describe my sister and me. She's a fearful believer whose first question when I invited her was, "Can the spirits get into my body?" I'm a rational skeptic. If there was a horror movie, I'd be the one checking out the strange noises in the basement. I love this spooky time of year and its promise of something mysterious. And yet, we all have stories about things we can't explain. Multiple no trespassing signs are tacked up along the property, a wishful attempt to deter people from sneaking onto the grounds. The weathered house was as dark as the trees in the storm. When the Heinzens' two large German shepherds ran out to greet us, and their elderly chihuahua peered up from her blanket on the couch, I felt relieved to see them, a sign of normalcy in an abnormal place. The couple and their friend, John Huntington, also a paranormal investigator, were inside the small wing of the house, where they stay while people explore the main home. They have a surveillance system with cameras in nearly every room and outside to keep an eye on guests and record paranormal activity. We liked them right away. They were as friendly and passionate about the house and its paranormal history as any enthusiast with an unusual hobby that they want you to love too. Jennifer, who has a tattoo of the house on her thigh, grew up in a haunted house in Maine. Corey, a former Marine, became interested in the paranormal after hearing ghostly battle cries one night on a battlefield in Fredericksburg, Virginia. They had been investigating paranormal activity for years when they learned about the house through the Warrens' files and the Conjuring movie. When the former owner had enough of the uninvited thrill seekers and put the property up for sale, the Heinzens jumped at the chance to own their own haunted house and open it up to others. Its real name is the Old Arnold Estate. the home of 8 generations of the Arnold family since 1736. They are taking care to research the history and separate truth from embellishment. While the area has seen battles, the house has not had any violent deaths. Bathsheba Sherman, the witch in the movie, was just an ordinary woman who lived nearby during the 1800s. She was buried in a local cemetery where her headstone has been damaged by vandals since the movie came out. People believe what they saw in the movie, Corey said, and he has to dissuade them. As paranormal investigators, as silly as it sounds, we are historians. He said, we want to tell the story the way it's meant to be told because that's what the spirits want. The Heinzens said they moved cautiously after buying the house, slept in the small wing of the house for first 4 months. We gave the spirits that much space, Corey said. We didn't know what to expect. We were just testing the waters and didn't want to overstep our boundaries. When they finally left the door open between the main house and the wing one night, they were awakened by a shadow figure. It was just peeking around the door like this, all black, just looking at us. I remember looking at it, and Jennifer was like, what the hell is that? Corey said. I said, that's a shadow figure. And then it moved real fast. She said, awesome. And then we high-fived each other. It wasn't scary, Jennifer said. It wasn't an evil presence, and we were just excited. Their daughter and son, they feel differently. Their daughter is at college and living at their home in Maine. Their son, now 18, saw black mist over him in one of the bedrooms and left the next day. They said he won't sleep in that house again. The Heinzens debunk what they can, but some things they just can't explain. Black mists in the house, shadow figures inside and out, footsteps and voices. Books fall off of shelves and doors unlatch and open. The Heinzens tell guests to be respectful of the spirits for their own good. They opened the door to the main house for Suzanne and me, and it was like stepping into a familiar place. What does it mean when a haunted house reminds you of places you lived as a child? The colonial decor, the wide plank floors, the fireplace mantel, wall stencils, and punched tin lights were all reminiscent of the places where our family lived. That's why we were a little unnerved when Corey and Jennifer gave us a tour and described the hauntings that the parents endured and the strange encounters others have had in each room. They showed us the ghost hunting devices, ghost detectors or EMF meters that measure fluctuations in electronic magnetic fields. The theory, Corey said, is that ghosts can manipulate these fields and communicate with the living. There are also voice recorders to capture ghostly voices and spirit boxes that scan radio frequencies to pick up the ghost's answers to the questions. I'm old school. I want to hear or see the ghost without embellishment, but Suzanne was intrigued by the spirit box and started asking questions. All I could hear was static, but she got excited when she thought she heard our names. We went into the cellar where snake skins draped off the stone foundation and the dogs locked in the wing off the house started to howl inconsolably. We stood beside an open well not far from where John Huntington saw a ghost woman with a broken neck. And with the voice recorder on, we asked questions and waited a few beats for answers. Is anyone here? Is there anything you want to show us? I asked. Corey played the tape back slowly and I heard my questions. And then something in response. Is there anyone here? I am, was the answer. Suzanne told me that we were not returning to the cellar. There are 3 bedrooms on the second floor, and each felt more oppressive than the last. The ceilings are low, the windows are small, and when the Heinzens said that their son and others have seen and felt strange things, I believe them. But we were staying the night. And we were going to end up here at some point. They showed us how to use the devices that they'd left. We don't want to be the influencer, Corey said. We want you guys to be able to take it all in for yourself. When the door shut behind them and they retreated to the wing off the house, Suzanne and I looked at each other. And then the ghost detector on the fireplace mantel in the living room began going off. I'm feeling a little scared right now, she said, attempting to smile. Why would you be scared? I asked. Because it's just the 2 of us, she replied. The device began beeping. See, I said, everything's fine. She looked up at the ceiling. We're just here for the night, and we respect you ghosts, you spirits. We don't want any trouble, so we hope that's okay. Then there was silence. The big house was so quiet, we could hear the click of the furnace, the rain patter on the windows. Let's see if someone will talk to us, I said. We sat with the Ouija board, but nothing happened. Suzanne wanted to use the spirit box that John Huntington had built. She turned it on, and static and blips of speech echoed out. Is anyone here? She asked. Noises popped in word, and I caught an occasional phrase like vaccine and commercial. It was meaningless to me, but Suzanne turned pale and shut it off. We have 10 more hours, she said, curling into a ball in the chair. I don't think I can do this. We were in for a long night. Okay, I said. We don't have to talk to the ghosts. I saw a Scrabble board on the hutch behind her. Want to play a game? Corey and Jennifer had warned us that the library has the most ghost activity, but it drew us in with its warmth and light. We dumped the tiles on the wide plank floor, opened up some chips and salsa, and began round speed of Scrabble. So what if we were the most boring ghost hunters to ever visit the Conjuring house? When the device on the mantle in the living room began beeping again, Suzanne froze. We turned to look. There was nothing. Hi, ghosties, we said to the open room. We're playing a game. We distracted ourselves by talking about the TV show Schitt's Creek and eating snacks, pretending it was completely normal to be sitting on the floor of a haunted house and listening to a ghost detector. We were really trying to stay awake for as long as we could. I didn't want to get up to those bedrooms, but time drags when you're dreading something that could happen. And by midnight, we began yawning. 7 more hours till daylight. We left all the lights on and went upstairs to the first bedroom, which had 2 twin beds under the eaves. Suzanne pulled a package of sage out of her bag and made up her own protection ceremony. I respect the spirits that are here, she said, waving the sage in front of her, but I cannot help you, so please leave me alone and do not scare me. Let me be safe. I laughed at her, but it was my idea to check for ghosts under the bed. We burrowed into the sleeping bags, but didn't get much rest. The ghost detectors downstairs woke me up in the middle of the night. I listened, but didn't move. My sister woke up to an overpowering scent of sage. Then something grabbed her feet, and she kicked wildly at it. We both stayed hidden in our sleeping bags until the morning light flickered through the windows. We felt victorious. That was just enough scary for me, Suzanne declared. She hadn't let me out of her sight the whole time that we'd been there, but now she felt safe enough for me to go downstairs without her. It's just an old farmhouse, I thought. Shutting off all the lights we'd left on, nothing had been disturbed. I opened the bathroom shutters to look outside. Mist rose from the trees, and a stone wall and fence rambled behind the pasture. There was a large, dark mass that looked like a man's torso facing the house under one of the evergreens. It was so odd that I waited to see if it would move, then decided it was just a creepy tree. As daylight filtered into the living room, I felt victorious. All I needed was coffee, and then there were the footsteps behind me and the sense of someone's presence. I had wondered all night if this place was haunted. I finally got my answer. When the Heinzens opened the slide door and the dogs rushed in, restless and sniffing, we were blasé about the detector still beeping. It goes off all the time, I said, like it was a smoke detector that needed new batteries. I downplayed hearing the footsteps, not wanting to scare my sister, but then she talked about feeling something grab her feet. John Huntington, the paranormal investigator, told her that's happened to him when he slept in that bed. They seem to like to mess with me when I'm alone, he added. Thanks to Speed Scrabble, we made it through the night. Corey and Jennifer told us about those who didn't. The ghost hunters who begged the couple to stay with them. The man who spent the night in his truck. The team that provoked the spirits and got scratch marks across their skin. Yes, we bought the t-shirts that say I survived. Still, we both felt unsettled as we drove away from this October country and back to the city. I think about the footsteps and the feeling that someone was behind me. Suzanne is adamant that something grabbed her feet. I even wonder about that dark shape under the tree. I'll give the Conjuring house this. For a few hours, it took our minds off the horrors of 2020, and we were glad to leave it in the rearview mirror. Very cool. See how that was written, kids? That's what we like. That was descriptive. Now, it was a news article, but you can do it, folks. You can do it. Just be descriptive. That was a great story. Thank you very much to Joe Nelson for sending that story on to me to share on today's program.
Okay, you want to hear something really weird?
Of course, always. I don't know if you're familiar with our show, Tim, but that's what we do all the time. What have you got for me?
Okay, so as you were reading the story about the Conjuring house, I started hearing really like low bass tones and speech, like the TV is on. And at the time, I think I'm alone at home, but then I think maybe like intern Yoko had walked in the house or whatever. So I text her and I'm like, "Are you in the house?" And she goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, will you turn down the goddamn TV? I'm recording." She goes, I have the TV on, but it's very, very low. I know you're recording. And I'm like, well, where's the bass coming from? She goes, what bass? I said, the bass in the speech. I said, it's coming through the wall of the studio. She goes, I'm telling you, I don't have the TV on very low or very loud at all. I can barely hear it. I said, okay, well, will you come down here and open the studio door and come listen to what I'm listening to? Because it's really loud. She comes downstairs, opens the door, and has this look on her face of shock and goes, now keep in mind, in the studio where I'm sitting, right next to me is the living room here downstairs. She comes downstairs and says the TV just turned itself on along with the stereo.
What? Really?
Yes, the entire entertainment center turned itself on.
That's bonkers.
Isn't it?
Wow, very weird.
Yeah. And I mean, to turn on the entire component. Now, keep in mind, I have a big screen TV, Apple TV, and a full component stereo system. So it's the old tuner you have to turn on, like a Sony tuner with full blown speakers. So I work everything through like a full blown remote that you have to turn everything on with. So it's kind of an involved system to turn on. It just doesn't turn on with like you got to hit a couple of buttons to turn everything on. In fact, so yeah, but everything just boom came on.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I was like, what? And she goes, yeah, you're going to have to smudge this place. Because I've had a couple of things happen here lately that were just weird. And I was trying to tell her something's not right about this house, To give you some background about this house, which I'm renting, okay? There was a husband and a wife who lived here, and the lady who lived here was called the bird lady of this particular town, because when the landlord who bought this house, he like literally took 22 bird cages out of here. Okay. She had like a lot of animals. There were, I can't speak to the well-being of the animals, but there were a lot of dogs, a lot of cats, a lot of birds, maybe too many of them. I know a lot of the neighbors have come by and said, thank you for cleaning things up and blah, blah, blah with the house, because the yard was very unkept, and the city had to come in and mow the lawn a lot. And they really didn't take very good care of a lot of the things with the house. But on top of that, and a lot of times, like they redid all the floors, like hardwood floors and everything, and you can smell like animal smells coming up out of the floor even after a year, so you can tell. Heck. Yeah, so you could tell like a lot of things weren't taken care of with the house. So we work along with the landlord to try and do whatever we can to clean things up. So we were told that the husband died here in the house, and the wife continued to live here in the house. So I wonder from time to time if the husband still isn't here. Okay. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when I'm recording, I notice, like if I turn the living room lights off and I just leave the lights here in the studio on, I'll hear weird noises out in the living room. So what I'll do is I'll leave the lights on, and everything seems to be peaceful. Okay. Almost like the old man wants to be involved in what I'm doing. Okay. So if I I leave the lights on in the living room. A lot of times too, like I put a night light in the hallway and a night light in the bathroom, so that lights are on, so that it feels like there's some activity down here, so that it doesn't feel like, because there's a workshop also downstairs that was his workshop. So I almost want to make it feel like there's still some activity down here, so he doesn't feel alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So I try to make it feel as roomy and homey down here as I can for him. Okay.
That's crazy.
So I put up a lot of pictures because downstairs is kind of like my man cave. I've got my TV down here. I've got, furniture down here. And so I put up a lot of my football stuff and wrestling posters and whatnot. And I'd put up an ECW poster, framed ECW poster from the pay-per-view that was here in Minneapolis back in 2000 that I actually worked the ECW street team for. And again, I had this issue back at a previous home with a shadow box from my grandfather's funeral, but this was from another home. But with this one, the entire poster came up off the wall and smashed to the ground, and the nail was still in the wall. Just that one poster. I can't tell you why. So I thought, okay, maybe the old man doesn't like hardcore wrestling. I don't know. Didn't think anything of it. And so I went, all right. So I left it down. I didn't put it back up. But nothing else was touched. I have other, artwork hanging, I have a cityscape of Minneapolis. I have other things that are hanging up. I have that 007 poster that we got from the movie premiere of, I don't remember which 007 movie premiere we went to where we got the Daniel Craig movie poster.
Wasn't that Skyfall?
I think it was Skyfall. I've got that framed. Yeah. I've got that framed. Other things, not anything else has come off the wall. And I come downstairs and I watch TV downstairs. I pretty much live down here in the studio, and work down here in the studio. And we don't have any issues, Every once in a while I'll hear footsteps down here, or I'll hear, things going on, or I'll just say hey to the old man, but, or I'll say good morning or whatever, but, nothing.
That's crazy. What a bunch of weird activity, man. Keep us in the loop. Let us know what's going on.
Yeah, but it just bizarre stuff. So
yeah, we've had weird stuff going on here. Weird enough that I've even told the producers of Holzer Files, if this keeps up, I think I know an episode we can do for season 3, a whole new Holzer File dealing with whatever I brought home from filming the Holzer Files.
So yeah, just bizarre. So as you were talking about that Conjuring story, the TV and the stereo and everything just boom came on. Weird. So
very weird.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. See, it's easy, folks. That's a Parashare. You can write in. You can call in at 651-300-4977. That's 651-300-4977. Email in your story, and we'll share it like Tim just did. Hello, Dave and Tim. That's how this email begins.
Hello.
It's me. It's Werewolfery Joe. That's how he wrote it. It's been a while since I wrote in, but I thought I would now, especially with your call out for thoughts on the space message that you played on your show October 21st. I'll be honest, when the message first started playing, I thought this was just some guy with a nice audio setup at home pulling off some fancy voice hocus pocus and background noise. But as the message kept going, one thing stuck out to me: the mention of a solar flash event happening. That struck me because I had a dream that was similar to said flash around 20 years ago. I dreamt of a very large solar flare erupting from the sun and hitting Earth, wiping out all life on Earth. Here in the U.S., the government and news agencies tried to keep it secret since there was nothing humans could do to deflect such a blast nor survive it. However, when it became visible, there was no hiding it any longer. I remember in the dream I was in my bedroom at my parents' place, looking up and out the window and seeing it steadily getting bigger in the clear afternoon sky. It was visible for a day, maybe 2 at most, before it finally hit. There was nothing we could do about it. No shelter good enough. So we gathered together one last time on the back deck and watched it come barreling in. In a flash, it was over. But I do remember seeing one last glimpse of the area, the house, the shed, the cornfield, the neighbors' houses, the rest of the town that was visible, all gone. Nothing but ash, cinder, and dust blowing in the wake of the flash. Nightmare indeed. I sure hope my vision of events do not happen, that if indeed it does occur, that it misses us completely. Well, that's my take on it. Tim, I hope your health is treating you good as of late and continues to do so, if not better. Dave, keep working that eyebrow mojo on the Holzer Files, and I hope both of you and yours have a safe and solar flare-free holiday. Keeping a suspicious eye on the skies, werewolfery JOE writes into us. Joe, that was terrifying. Thank you for that. I'm not going to sleep tonight.
Yeah, really. Thanks, Joe.
Terrifying. Dare Dave. That's how this one starts up. I just watched the newest episode of the Holzer Files, Merchant's House. It was fantastic. When Cindy was doing her readings and was feeling what she felt, I wondered about something and wanted to ask you and Tim what you think. While Cindy was describing what she felt, my heart was breaking. Growing up, I was always told I had a tender heart, as so many things could and would bring me to tears. It still happens to me today. Instead of being called tender-hearted, is it possible that I'm an empath and feel what's happening? I can watch movies, commercials, shows, read books, etc., and there are some things that set me off sad and brought to tears. Thanks for being there for all of us fans. I wish you all the best in everything you all do. Hugs to you both. And Tim.
Yes.
Hugs to both you and Tim. Sorry, that's what it was to say.
Okay.
I put the inflection in the wrong syllables.
I see what you did there.
The emphasis was wrong there.
Right.
You guys seem so much like part of my family. I love you both. Your fan from California, Becky. Enjoy life. You never know when the next breath you take may be your last. Well, that was good and bleak all at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm tenderhearted. I believe I'm also empathic to a degree. I get weepy at Hallmark commercials. Remember that old McDonald's commercial with the dad? This is probably from the late 80s, early 90s. The dad picks the kids up from the school dance, and all the girls get in his car, and they're like, Sally, Mike's going to be at McDonald's. And the little girl kind of slowly looks over at her dad, and he goes, hey, who wants to stop at McDonald's? And they pull in, and everybody starts to get out of the car, and she looks at him and goes, Dad, you're not coming in, are you? And he goes, no, of course not. And then they show him in the parking lot eating fries off the dashboard with the little bag there, watching his daughter and her friends sitting at a table with boys, and the boy across from her lovingly looking into her eyes. She's doing the same, and then she slowly just turns and looks out the window at her dad and mouths the words, I love you.
Aww.
Tim, that broke me up every time I saw that stupid commercial. I would begin weeping. There's only one other McDonald's commercial that makes me weep that hard, and Tim, it's when they say, the McRib is back.
Oh,
December 2nd. Tim, it's back. December 2nd. I'm so happy.
I thought it was the commercial where they said Calvin got a job. I didn't know it.
No, it was the fact when they bring back the McRib. That's the exciting feature for me. December 2nd. Now, here's the thing, though, Tim. I think that, we're hearing rumblings. They may just start shutting down America again because of the COVID virus. Bars and restaurants, places to gather might be closed down. If this is just some horrible trick from McDonald's, again, knowing that they're going to close down before the end of November, promising us McRib on December 2nd, I don't know how I'll handle it. I don't mean to sound conspiratorial.
So you're saying McRib is our shiny object to keep our minds off of potential civil unrest? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that. I just think that McDonald's has no McRibs. I don't think they exist. I think McRibs were made of Bigfoot and chupacabra meat. And they haven't been able to catch any because they farmed it all. But let's just go ahead. We know the world's going to close down in November. Let's just go ahead and say December 2nd, we're bringing the McRib back. Hey, then it looks like we were going to do our part, but sorry, world got closed down. I think that's it, Tim. I'm terrified that that's it. People, like right now, they're Googling Bigfoot and El Chupacabra meat in McRib sandwiches.
And it used to be yoga mats were the only thing that you had to worry about in a McRib sandwich.
Delicious barbecue slathered onion and pickled covered yoga mats. I'll take it every day.
I will too. It's delicious. Yeah.
You can't scare me away with that. A woman gets a thrill after spotting a ghost looking right at her in an eerie video. This news story will be up on today's page. If you go to Darkness Radio and click on the news tab, you'll find this story, this video there. A paranormal investigator has shared this video during a trip, not a trope, Tim, or a trop. During a trip to Mount Misery Road in Long Island, New York, a woman claims to have spotted something rather spooky. Paranormal investigator Lynn Ludwig, who posts on social media as Lynn Famous, recently visited the area rumored to be haunted to explore the woods. She was hoping to experience something otherworldly after becoming intrigued by some of the urban legends associated with the spot. And after looking back at footage captured during her visit, she thinks she may have done just that. Lynn believes that her video captures an apparition, a ghostly figure looking right into the camera before looking away. Can you see it in the video? Speaking to Mirror Online, Lynn explained that she never used to be a believer, but since having a paranormal experience of her own, is now on a mission to explore as many haunted places as she can. She said, "I was always a skeptic. I guess that would be most people until I had my own experience that I just couldn't explain. Now I'm on a mission to get in a lot more haunted explorations and share my experiences with like-minded people on my YouTube channel. I want to explore the infamous woods at Mount Misery, as I heard there was a curse on the land. In a certain area where I was filming, there were cold spots. Outside, Tim, in the woods, there were cold spots. Whew, crazy. I felt this eerie feeling that something was there with us that night. I knew I had to have caught something on camera. When I went back to edit the video for my YouTube channel, I saw what seems to be an apparition as I pan the camera from left to right. You can see it on the bottom left. It looks into the camera, then looks away. She continued to say that she's never caught anything like this before. I've never caught an apparition, especially this pronounced on camera. Obviously, I didn't see it when I was there, but it explained the uneasy feeling I was getting. I'm very proud of this. This is as real as it gets when it comes to evidence. Lynn added that she has plans to visit many more spooky and haunted locations in Long Island. I'll be keeping busy for a while, she said. You can see that video and judge for yourself by visiting darknessradio.com. Click on the news tab. By the way, while you're there, might as well click on the store tab because all of the great books we feature, true crime and paranormal, are all there in our shop, as well as many cool gift items. Board games, clothing, apparel, jewelry, you name it, it's cool. Ghost hunting equipment, we've got it all there. So if you go in through our link at darknessradio.com, click on the store or shop button there, it'll take you in. Scroll down the page, you can find my autographed book to purchase, or just click the Amazon storefront banner. It'll take you into our shop, and you can find all kinds of cool stuff to order through that as well. Quick reminder, tomorrow, Life with the Afterlife, our guest Amy Bruni here on the program, so make sure you tune in and check that out. All right, Tim, there is a new series. We've been doing some movie and TV reviews lately. Mm-hmm. There's a new series that is on Amazon. And I'm really enjoying it. I got to be honest. It's a really good series. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost are together again. British actor Simon Pegg might be known for a series of zombie movies, but he admits he doesn't buy into the supernatural personally. One thing he does believe in, though, is his best friend of over 20 years, funny man Nick Frost. The comedy duo, who starred together in Shaun of the Dead, The World's End, and Hot Fuzz, have now not only reunited on screen for the first time since 2013, but off screen as well in the new comedy horror series Truth Seekers. It's the first TV project from their new production company, Stolen Picture. It was more about creating a show in line with the sort of stuff Nick and I used to love when we were living together and we were in our 20s, like the X-Files, Peg tells 9Honey Celebrity via Zoom. Our favorite X-Files episodes were the Darren Morgan episodes, which were quite funny and whimsical, and we had this idea of creating a show which was all of that. So it wasn't the odd episode that was whimsical. It was constantly whimsical and a bit silly, but at the same time took its supernatural elements seriously. That was the kind of remit for the four of us writers all agreed on when we were all together. The duo met through Simon Pegg's now ex-girlfriend, who was a waitress at the restaurant where Frost worked while trying to get into stand-up comedy. Pegg, 50, says the pair are like brothers. Having clicked from their very first meeting, they began hanging out almost daily as Pegg helped Frost, 48, navigate the comedy world he was already in at the time. While the stand-up career didn't pan out for Frost, Pegg thought that his mate was the funniest person he knew. So while writing TV show Spaced in the late 90s, he decided to add the character Frost had created in his comedy routine and got his friend to take the part. The duo have carried on working together over the years, and Pegg says they created the production company as an excuse to hang out, more like in their younger years. Truth Seekers tells the story of Gus, played by Nick Frost, an internet interstellar who is not Interstellar, Tim. English can be hard. Truth Seekers tells the story of Gus, played by Nick Frost, an internet installer who is a paranormal investigator in his spare time. He teams up with his work colleague to film ghost sightings across the UK, and they uncover a conspiracy to cause Armageddon for the entire human race. Pegg stars as Gus's boss, Dave. So you got to like that right away, Tim. Explaining he didn't model the character on anyone in particular because I've never had a boss like that. But I did like the name Dave from my favorite paranormal radio show, Darkness Radio, he goes on to say. Or only in my mind. One of those two.
Yeah, I was going to say
I just sort of came to it in the end, and the shoot spent about 3 days wearing a wig, which I chose myself because I wanted to look kind of like a mannequin. There's a reason for that, he says. But no, try and think of a really nice and really helpful, really sweet man, the kind of boss you wish you had, really the kind of boss who actually thinks about you and compliments you, a sort of father figure that smothers you with external validation. I've never had a boss like that, he laughs. Pegg, speaking to 9 Honey, celebrity from Venice, where he's currently filming Mission Impossible 7, laughs when its suggested life almost seems a little more paranormal now in the show, given how the pandemic's changed all of our lives. So it's an interesting show. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Tim, Truth Seekers. It's got a mix of comedy and supernatural, and I think they do a really good job of kind of mixing the two. So for our listeners, this to me just seems like the perfect show for them to check out.
Haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to it. That's for sure.
Yeah. Let's see. We've got a couple more news stories to cover here, Tim. Some more entertainment news as well. Sam Smith is in the news talking about why he believes his house is haunted. My guess is because of the horrible James Bond theme he created and all the dreams and hopes and prayers of fans of James Bond that died listening to his maudlin, pathetic, crappy song.
Wow.
Now all those spirits are haunting him.
Wow.
Is that harsh? I like Sam Smith's voice. I like him as a singer. I just think that is hands down the worst James Bond theme ever.
It was pretty bad. Yeah. I don't know if it was the worst one ever,
but the worst James Bond theme. Name me one other James Bond theme that sucked like that. Yeah, that's what I thought.
No, I mean, I gotta have the list in front of me.
Pretty cool. I mean, Shirley Bassey doing like 4 James Bond themes. Every one of them are gold.
Hold on.
From Man with the Golden Gun to Goldfinger. They're gold.
Tell you what, you start reading the story. I am going to look up the list because I am sure there's one worse. But
no, there's none worse. Aha's Living Daylights is close.
That one was not worse terrible.
Than Sam Smith's is horrible. Listen to the two of them. At least Aha tries to get a Bond vibe in there. But, it would have been better if they would have just played Take On Me as the opening theme. That way, at least it made some sense. I'm James Bond, take on me. Come on, just take me on. I dare you. That would have made more sense. But I would just say that the Living Daylights theme is second worst. The worst is Sam Smith's. Anyway, haunted houses are fun to visit during Halloween or on vacation, but living in one is decidedly less appealing. That's the situation for 4-time Grammy Award winner Sam Smith. Smith apparently believes that his house is haunted, claiming there's a ghost in the background of a video they took at home. The eerie video, taken during quarantine, is all in good fun, but it's not the first time Smith has talked about their house being haunted. During a 2017 appearance on the Ellen DeGeneres show, Smith talked about how their house used to be a school, which lends to its spooky vibe. I hear crazy, crazy stuff, Smith said. And my sister at night, she feels like someone's staring at her while she sleeps. Naturally, host Ellen DeGeneres immediately asks Smith why they haven't moved to another home. But as they have since shared in later interviews, they don't see the ghost as having negative energy. I have a good relationship with the spirits, Smith explained. Sometimes at night I get up like I'm just a little like, leave me alone, and they do. It's simple but effective. Here's what else Smith has said about their potentially haunted house over the years. During an appearance on Hot Ones, singer-songwriter Sam Smith chased down their spicy wings with a spooky story about their home. So my house is actually like it's part of an old school. And my section of the house, because it's split into two different houses, was probably like where the nuns would sleep. So there's probably like a freaky nun in my house. And while most people wouldn't want to share living space with the ghost of a freaky nun, Smith seems pretty at peace with it. I feel like it's a nice presence because whenever I hear her or feel her around, I don't get too scared. The Stay With Me singer explained that their mother told them that she saw the ghost of their late grandfather standing over them when they were a baby, which helped them see ghosts as a non-threatening presence. I think it's a beautiful thing if some spirits stick around, Smith added. Probably deep down, I don't believe in ghosts, but it kind of makes life fun. Back in March of 2020, Sam Smith posted a video of themselves singing Ordinary People by John Legend. Smith's vocal range is on full display in the video, which he posted to Twitter. But the singer's musical ability isn't the only thing about the video that had fans talking. Instead, viewers took notice of a creepy flickering light in the background of the clip. Just realized my light was flickering the whole time through the singing that video. I swear that's a ghost. I always hear the ghost on the stairs, Smith tweeted the day after sharing the video, along with a laughing emoji. Even the ghosts love listening to you, one fan responded to the singer's tweet.
I found it.
While the recent video probably isn't evidence of the paranormal, Smith's other comments about the house being a former school are pretty creepy if you think about it. But it sounds like Smith and his family are taking it in stride and welcoming any potential ghosts with open arms. All right, Tim, prove to me there's a worse James Bond theme.
Scott Walker, Only Myself to Blame from The World Is Not Enough.
Jeez. All right. I'm going to still say Sam Smith sucks more, but it's a close, they're neck and neck. Sam Smith has just put out his nose a little further to break that tape. But that is a good one. I didn't even think of that one. That's how bad it was. I just erased it from my mind. But I was actually offended by Sam Smith's.
Well, it's
offended at how crappy it was.
I think because, Sam Smith is probably more well known, but that one was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's our final article. We have another email to cover, but our final article for today, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
The Xbox Kinect might be dead, but it's still being used for ghost hunting. Tegan Jones writes this article. We're mere days away from the launch of the Xbox Series X and S consoles. One of the big peripheral hardware changes for this generation is the Kinect being dropped. And out of its respect, it's worth reminding ourselves of one of its key uses outside of gaming, ghost hunting. Some of you may remember the Xbox Kinect being used as a plot device for Paranormal Activity 4. In addition to capturing a small, creepy child walking around at night, it picked up a ghost following him around. I thought that was a great use of that technology and storytelling device. Really a good part. I loved Paranormal Activity 4.
Oh, yeah.
Although I wanted that girl's boyfriend to death with his own arm. But I digress. While silly in a movie context, no, it wasn't. It points to the basic premise of how the Xbox Kinect is used for ghost hunting in the real world. The Kinect captures player movements with RGB cameras and infrared projectors, essentially turning a person's body into a controller. The motion sensing and facial recognition help the Kinect recognize bodies in a 3D format. It's a simplified explanation to how the Kinect works, but the bottom line is that the Kinect was supposed to only recognize people when they entered a play area. But because nothing is perfect, the Kinect was known to pick up second players who aren't there. Well, some might argue this is simply a glitch or the result of an imperfect algorithm. Others believe the device could be picking up ghosts, Tim. Due to this belief, the Kinect found a second life as a paranormal detection device. It's believed that the Kinect cameras can detect and display the supposed energy exuded by ghosts. Online, you can find places that not only use but sell ghost hunting cameras that are essentially modified Kinects. You can even learn how to mod your own. And there's a link to that in this article, so I'll include this article as well. Locally, one such device has been used at the quarantine station in Sydney by ghost hunter Graham Lewis. Lewis has combined the Kinect camera with a hard drive recorder and screen. In an interview with ABC Illawarra in 2017, which I also make an appearance in, according to this article, Lewis cited the weird sensor picks up as a reason he adopted the tech itself. Xbox gaming users were reporting curious incidents in which the sensor camera, which tracks human movement for interactive games, was often detecting second players in the game when there was no one else in the room, he said to the ABC. Lewis has also captured Kinect footage of what he believes to be the ghost of a small child. Earlier sections of the video clearly depict people who are there at the time, but the weirdness starts at about the 7-minute, 30-second mark. Again, we've included this news story at darknessradio.com under the news segment for today's date. So you can find this and look at the video footage yourself. It's spooky for sure, but it's difficult to be able to get to get behind it heartily. The Xbox Kinect being able to detect ghosts when there's no way to do a controlled test. You can't exactly bring a ghost into a lab environment. As I said to ABC all those years ago, even if ghosts are real, we don't know what detectable elements they actually produce. So we don't definitively know what to look out for with the Kinect or any other ghost hunting equipment. Well, then you start looking for things, Tim, like the video footage I caught at the Palmer house, where the stick figure appears behind a chair, steps out around the chair, and then sits in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a glitch in the software.
No, it's not.
That's bonkers. And then a second one steps in. The first ghost then stands up from the chair, moves closer to my friend, and the second piece of video sees the second one turn into like a spider-like figure, scramble up the wall under the overhang into the other room, and then come back. It's creepy. I'm trying to get that piece of video off my actual camera. I videotaped it from the camera itself, and I put it up on my YouTube channel. So I'll include a link to that video so people can see the video of the video and see what I'm talking about. But it's a pretty weird moment. And to me, that shows a lot of activity, not just something random that might be mistaken. These things are moving in normal ways, like stepping around a chair and sitting, standing up from the chair, moving over, another one standing up and then crawling up the wall and under the overhang. It's creepy. So I'll include that. Now, the article says if you cast your mind back to when the original Xbox One was released, the second generation Kinect was included by default. While the tech was pretty cool, it also blew out the price tag significantly. This allowed the PS4 to undercut Xbox by a huge margin. It took roughly a year for Xbox One to then be released, sans Kinect, and at a more palpable price point. It's unlikely we will see a new generation of Kinects in the Xbox Series XS lifecycle. After all, Xbox recently announced that Kinect games will not be compatible with the new consoles. Interest just doesn't seem to be there anymore. The only particularly popular game I'm curious about is Just Dance. I wonder if it will be supported by the new Xbox consoles, and if so, how? So if this truly is the death of Kinect, it brings me some joy that in the ghost hunting community, it has an afterlife. Very cool little article. Yeah. Again, we've got a copy of that article, and the links and videos and everything you need to find will be on today's show. If you go to darknessradio.com, click on the news tab, you'll see each week the date of this week's episode and then the news. And if you scroll down, you'll see past dates and the news articles we've covered on those episodes as well. Here's our next story from Fiore. Dear Dave and Tim, I love your show. I've been listening for 5 years now. Thank you both for all you do. It was a dark night, 40,000 feet above the ground. The plane smelled of recycled air, and my surroundings were sleeping people. I was traveling with my husband and young daughter. I sat in the window seat because I love looking out the window of the plane when flying. It was late evening, around 9 p.m. on the way home from Las Vegas to Minneapolis. We had an amazing trip, very relaxing, but I witnessed something very peculiar. I gazed out the window, dreaming about our next family trip and looking down on the earth over snowy mountains, cities, and darkness. It was a full moon, and the light of the moon shined bright over the earth. Then I saw it, a small light, like a speckle of a diamond, which then grew stronger and stronger until it was a bright wave of light flowing on the earth. Or through the earth. It moved as fast as the plane or even faster. It moved and flowed like a river, and depending on its terrain, it looked like it was underground shining through, and then it would stop dim, and again a speckle of a diamond light would shine and begin to grow and grow through the earth or the terrain. It moved with the earth, above mountains, through valleys, like if you moved your hand in a movement describing a fish in the water. I even saw it flow straight through a small city. If you can imagine bright city lights, and then the lights becoming even more brighter as this line of energy flowed through it. It's hard to explain what I saw, but I was so fixated on it for like a good 20 minutes until my daughter was restless and needed my attention. I told my husband, and he chalked it up to being the moon and nothing else. If anyone else has seen something like this, I would love to hear what they think it is. Thank you so much for taking the time to read my story, and that comes from Fiore. Well, that's cool, Fiore. Gosh, I wish you would have pulled out your camera and videotaped that. I would have loved to have seen what that light anomaly looked like. A, to see if we could make sense of it, but B, more importantly, just to see something like that. So, very cool. Well, that's it for today, folks. I hope that you have enjoyed today's news and stories. Remember, call in 651-300-4977. Tell us your story so we can feature it on an upcoming episode. Tune in tomorrow. Amy Bruni is our guest. Life with the Afterlife is our topic. And tune in tomorrow. We've got a mini marathon of the Holzer Files starting in the morning, and then tomorrow night, a brand new episode, Death to Tyrants, which will be immediately followed with a special Darkness Radio Presents Holzer's Ghosts live video stream on my social media pages, so you can actually go watch. I'll be talking with Kobe from the episode. He is one of the historians at the famous Surratt Tavern, and that audio will be made available as a Darkness Radio episode, a bonus episode, free of charge, because I love you people. It'll be available on Friday as well. Tim, stay safe, buddy. I'll talk to you tomorrow right here on the best in Paranormal Talk Radio. You've been listening to Darkness Radio.